The dust motes dance in the afternoon sunlight streaming through the Victorian windows of Madeline's Antiques and Curiosities. My grandmother's shop, now my shop, though my family couldn't understand why it wanted. My name is Emma Bradford, and this is how my grandmother's worthless inheritance changed everything. You can't be serious about keeping this place, my sister Rachel said, wrinkling her nose at the cluttered shelves. It's literally full of other people's junk. I ran my hand along the mahogany sideboard, remembering how Grandma Madeline had taught me to spot genuine Chippendale from reproductions. It's not junk. Every piece has a story. Sure, Rachel laughed. Stories that won't pay the property taxes. God, Emma, you have an MBA from Harvard. You could be running Dad's investment firm, not playing shopkeeper with Grandma's trash heap. The trash heap had been Grandma's pride and joy for 40 years. While the rest of the family focused on building their banking empire, she'd built something different, a haven for historical treasures and the stories they carried. The will readings tomorrow, Rachel reminded me. Last chance to change your mind. Take your share of the liquid assets instead of this, she gestured dismissively at the shop. But I'd already made my decision. When Grandma's will had given us choices about our inheritance, my siblings had immediately opted for cash and stocks. Only I had chosen the shop, much to everyone's derision. After Rachel left, I locked up and headed to the small apartment above the store. Also part of my inheritance. The space was tiny compared to my former luxury condo, but it felt more like home than anywhere I'd lived since leaving for college. Grandma's last letter lay on the kitchen table, delivered by her lawyer the day she died. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, you've chosen the shop over the money. I knew you would. You're the only one who ever understood that value isn't just about dollars and cents. There are secrets in this old place, treasures hidden in plain sight, but finding them requires patience, knowledge, and most importantly, the wisdom to look beyond the obvious. I've left you everything you need to understand. Just remember what I taught you about Victorian mirrors and the stories they reflect. All my love, Grandma Madeline. The letter had puzzled me for days. Grandma had taught me countless things about antiques, but what was special about Victorian mirrors? The next morning, I arrived early at the family lawyer's office for the formal will reading. My parents, 3 siblings, and various aunts and uncles were already there, dressed in expensive suits that screamed old money. Emma, Mom said tightly. Mr. Peterson says you're still insisting on taking the shop. That's right. But darling, Dad interjected, be reasonable. Your share of the liquid assets would be over $5 million. The shop barely breaks even. I've made my decision. Yes, my brother James sneered, we know. Throwing away your future to play with Grandma's dusty antiques. At least you're making everyone else's share bigger. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. Shall we begin? The will reading was exactly what we expected. Grandma's considerable fortune, built from her family's railroad money, was divided among those who chose cash. The shop and its contents went to me, along with a modest account to cover operating expenses. Well, Aunt Patricia said afterward, I suppose someone had to take the white elephant. Though really, Emma, with your education. I let their comments wash over me, thinking about Grandma's letter. Something about Victorian mirrors. Back at the shop, I began a systematic examination of every mirror in the inventory. There were dozens, from ornate gilt monstrosities to simple wooden-framed looking glasses. All genuinely Victorian. Grandma never delved in reproductions. As I worked, I remembered her lessons. Victorian mirrors tell stories, Emma, not just in what they reflect, but in how they're made. The backing, the frame construction, the mounting methods. Every detail matters. It was the mounting that caught my attention on the largest mirror, a magnificent piece that dominated the shop's back wall. Unlike the others, it was attached with modern brackets, though they'd been artificially aged to match the period. The mirror had been there as long as I could remember, but something about it had always bothered Grandma. Not quite right, she'd mutter sometimes, studying it with a frown. Now I understood why. The mounting was wrong for the period. With trembling hands, I carefully detached the mirror from the wall. Behind it was a safe, its door flush with the plaster. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Last chance to be sensible. Dad's offering to buy you out. Don't be stupid. I ignored it, focusing on the safe. The combination lock was old. Probably installed when the building was built in the 1890s. But what would Grandma have used as the combination? Then I remembered another lesson. In the Victorian era, Emma, people often use significant dates as codes. The trick is knowing which date matters. I tried several dates: Grandma's birthday, the shop's founding, the building's construction. Nothing worked. Finally, I tried one more: 18,640,723. July 23, 1864, the date her great-grandfather had made the family's first railroad fortune. The lock clicked open. Inside was a single leather-bound ledger and another envelope with my name on it. "My clever girl," Grandma's letter began. "I knew you'd figure it out. Now it's time for you to learn the truth about our family's real legacy and about the greatest treasure hunt in American history." The ledger was unlike anything I'd seen before. Page after page of coded entries, detailed maps, and what looked like inventory lists. But it wasn't merchandise for the shop. These were descriptions of historical artifacts, priceless pieces that had supposedly been lost to time. And there on the final page was a newspaper clipping from 1875. "Railroad Baron's collection vanishes. Priceless historical artifacts missing, presumed lost at sea." Except they hadn't been lost at all. My hands shook as I read Grandma's letter. The public story was a lie. Your great-great-grandfather didn't lose those artifacts. He hid them, protecting them from a corrupt government that would have destroyed their true historical significance. For 5 generations, our family has been the secret guardians of America's lost treasures. The shop isn't just a business, it's a cover, a way to track and protect pieces of history until they can safely return to the light. The ledger contains everything: locations, provenances, the true stories behind each piece. But be careful. There are people who have been searching for these artifacts for over a century, people who wouldn't hesitate to kill for them. Trust no one until you understand everything. And remember, sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in plain sight. Begin with the Jefferson pieces. You'll find the first clue in the Chippendale desk's secret drawer, the one I taught you to open when you were 12. I sat back, my mind racing. The antique shop wasn't just a shop. It was the front for what might be the greatest historical discovery of the century. And my wealthy, judgmental family had no idea. My hands trembled as I approached the Chippendale desk that had stood in Grandma's office for decades. The secret drawer mechanism was exactly as I remembered. Push the third rosette on the right panel while pulling the bottom drawer. The hidden compartment slid open silently, revealing a leather portfolio and what looked like an ancient key. Breaking and entering now. I whirled around. My brother James stood in the doorway, looking smugly superior in his $1,000 suit. "It's my shop," I reminded him. "I can examine my own furniture. For now." He strolled in, running a manicured finger along the desk's surface. "But let's be realistic, Emma. You can't maintain this place on the operating budget Grandma left. Dad's offering you a way out." I discreetly slipped the portfolio and key into my jacket pocket. "Not interested." $2 million over your inheritance share," he pressed. "That's generous for a failing business." "The shop isn't failing." "No." He picked up a ledger from the desk, thankfully not the secret one from the safe. "Then why are the sales numbers down 30% from last year?" "Face it, sis. Grandma's reputation kept this place afloat. Without her." I said no, James. After he left, I locked the shop and retreated to the apartment. The portfolio contained a series of letters between my great-great-grandfather and Thomas Jefferson's great-grandson. They detailed an arrangement to protect priceless artifacts from the Jefferson estate, pieces that had never been recorded in official inventories. The key, according to a coded note, opened a storage unit in Philadelphia, one that had been continuously rented by our family since 1875. My phone buzzed. "Rachel, James says you're being stubborn. Just take Dad's offer before you bankrupt yourself." I ignored it, focusing on the letters. The Jefferson pieces were just the beginning. The collection included items from the Founding Fathers, Native American artifacts that predated Columbus, and documents that could rewrite American history. But Grandma was right about the danger. Several letters mentioned interested parties who would stop at nothing to claim the artifacts. The most recent letter, dated just months before Grandma's death, warned of renewed interest from powerful collectors. A knock at the apartment door interrupted my reading. Through the peephole, I saw a distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit. "Miss Bradford?" I'm Harrison Wells from the Smithsonian Institution. We need to talk about your grandmother's collection. My pulse quickened. How had they found out so quickly? I have all the proper paperwork, he continued, holding up an ID badge. This is a matter of national historical significance. Something felt off. I checked my phone, quickly Googling Harrison Wells Smithsonian. No results. Another knock, more insistent this time. Ms. Bradford, please. Time is of the essence. I backed away from the door, grabbing my laptop and a ledger. Grandma's letter had warned me to trust no one, and this man's story wasn't checking out. The kitchen window opened onto the fire escape. I was halfway down when I heard the apartment door crash open. Find her, a harsh voice ordered. And find that ledger. I ran through back alleys, my heart pounding. 3 blocks away, I ducked into the public library and called the only person I could trust. Dr. Sarah Chen, my best friend and a curator at the actual Smithsonian. Emma, she answered on the first ring. I was just about to call you. Someone's been asking questions about your grandmother's shop. Fake Smithsonian agent. How did you? Wait, are you in trouble? Maybe. How fast can you get to Boston? I'm already here. Your grandmother contacted me months ago. Asked me to help you when the time came. Meet me at the Museum of Fine Arts in an hour. The museum's cafe was quiet. Sarah listened intently as I explained everything. The safe, the ledger, the Jefferson letters. My God, she breathed. If this is real, Emma, do you understand what you found? This could be the most significant historical discovery in decades. But who are these people after the ledger? There's a black market for historical artifacts. Extremely wealthy collectors who want pieces of American history for themselves, no matter the cost. Your grandmother. What about her? Sarah hesitated. She contacted me because she'd been receiving threats. Someone had discovered part of the truth about the collection. She needed help authenticating and protecting the artifacts when they were finally revealed. Why didn't she tell me? To protect you. She wanted to make sure you chose the shop for the right reasons, not out of obligation. My phone buzzed again. Dad, this time. Emma, this is ridiculous. The shop was robbed? File an insurance claim and take our offer. The robbery was already being used to pressure me into selling. But they had no idea what they were really pressuring me to give up. Sarah, I need your help. That storage unit in Philadelphia, she grinned. Already got a team ready. Official Smithsonian expedition. We can be there tomorrow. The next 24 hours changed everything. The storage unit contained exactly what the letters had promised. An astonishing collection of historical artifacts, perfectly preserved. Thomas Jefferson's personal scientific instruments, Benjamin Franklin's unpublished manuscripts, Native American relics that predated known settlements. This is unprecedented, Sarah's authentication team declared. The historical significance, it's beyond calculation. News of the discovery exploded across media outlets. Lost American treasures found in antique shop in Haiti. Historical discovery Iraqis academici world. Priceless artifacts preserved by secret family legacy. My family's reaction was predictable. You knew about this, James accused during an emergency family meeting. That's why you wouldn't sell. No, I corrected him. I chose the shop because I loved it, just like Grandma did. The treasures were a bonus. The attempted robbery was revealed as the work of private collectors who had been searching for the artifacts for generations. The FBI arrested Harrison Wells and his team. They'd been behind similar heists at other historical sites. 1 year later, I stood in the Smithsonian's new Bradford Jefferson collection wing, watching visitors marvel at the exhibits. The antique shop was thriving, transformed into a combination museum and high-end dealership for authenticated historical pieces. Not bad for a failing business, Sarah teased, joining me at the opening gala. My family had finally stopped trying to rescue me from my inheritance. The shop's reputation for authenticating historical artifacts made it more profitable than ever. But more importantly, it continued Grandma's real mission, protecting and preserving pieces of history. Rachel approached, looking sheepish. So, that Chippendale desk, does it really have a secret drawer? I smiled. Want me to show you how to open it? The Bradford family collection became one of the most significant historical discoveries of the century. But for me, The real treasure was understanding what Grandma had tried to teach us all along. That true value isn't always obvious at first glance. Last week, a young girl visited the shop with her mother. As they examined a Victorian mirror, I heard her ask, "How do you know if something's really valuable?" I thought of Grandma as I answered, "The real value of anything isn't in what others think it's worth. It's in the story it tells and the truth it preserves." The ledger stays locked in the shop's new state-of-the-art safe, but I don't need it anymore. Its most important lesson wasn't about hidden treasures. It was about seeing the value in what others dismiss. Every morning, as I open the shop, I thank Grandma for trusting me with her real legacy. Not just the priceless artifacts, but the understanding that sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones others are too blind to see. And those Victorian mirrors, they're still telling stories if you know how to look.